What up, everybody? We're going to be tackling stage 5 of Crucible, the dreaded Tangled Web Eternal stage. We're going to be talking about 3 different variants: Emma, Noir, Apocalypse. This is a long video. Use the timestamp. So I'm going to have timestamps showing the footage that we have on a couple of these matchups. We have one with A-Hole doing a one-shot, but not really because it timed out, but it shows you kind of how it plays. I'll critique some of the play to show you how to fix that a little bit. I know there's lots of video out there about how to play that good now, so you can absolutely check other sources too. And then I'll show you what I did and what I found the most success with. But the most important part of this video, the most interesting part of the video, is going to be afterwards, where we talk about some of the experiences players have been having in this room, and then like theory crafting which of the 3 defenses is best with this Tangled Web team, if putting it up at all. And then like, what kind of offensive approaches can you take? Which have maybe more merit than others? Which do you want to do? I'll tell you what I'm going to do at the end. But it is a long video. Use the timestamps. I hope it helps you. This room bonkers sucks. All right. There's no other way around it. This room bonkers sucks and makes everybody make very crucial decisions as far as their Crucible goes. And the solution to this team, the new Warriors, the Firestar character isn't out for like another month maybe, okay? And that 4-piece new Warrior team is not the solution to this. The 5-piece new Warrior team that we're gonna get next patch, that 5th character, that's the solution to this. So it is important for your Crucible endeavors that you understand how to tackle this room. It's very important. Now I'm gonna help you break that down. All right, so first things first, let's talk about the risky one-shot, risky in quotation marks, because I've seen a lot of people getting through this, and I've seen a lot of failures too. So this footage is not mine. This comes from someone in the Discord. I'll try and get their name included here because I did ask for permission. This is a punch across at like near 1.2 million powered. Now he's not going to win this. He's going to time out. There is a targeting issue here, but you got to cut him some slack. This is day 3 of this team even being a possibility. Really day 2 of this new Crucible where people are really actively using it, right? So he's got the Apocalypse Darkhold thing. And one of the great things about using Apocalypse Darkhold here is Apocalypse stops 2099 from landing any of his defense downs or slows. Even if the enemy team had Apocalypse, this will still stop the 2099 because of the line in Apocalypse passive where he reduces the first attacker's focus by 200%. Just not going to land anything. Which then makes Weaver hit into an enemy Darkhold team that still has defense up. Even if there's an enemy Apocalypse, that's still not going to get cleared even though the safeguard was gone from that 2099. So that's really big bonus. Now, dropping the safeguard, 29 does get a bonkers amount of focus for every positive effect or something like that. But I believe the minus 200% focus comes into account first or something. It's really weird. I've seen for the most part that 29 just whiffs everything on that peel. Where was I? And then yeah, Spider Weaver is hitting into Darkhold with defense up. Yes, Spider Weaver I believe gets 60% focus from 2099, but she's hitting into 100% extra resistance from that Morgan who gives it to everybody. So the chances that she lands that opening stun is minimal, and she cannot land it on Apocalypse. However, if the Weaver does land it on Morgan or on Agatha, I think you are in big trouble because Agatha is going to do a giant heal here. Honestly, guys, Agatha for this matchup as healer, not a terrible idea. The amount of healing and barrier she gets on this ultimate is very, very important for this to work. Look at the heal, especially on that Strange there. If that heal was bigger, that would be even better. But now here's the mistake that is made, okay? So he's going to go for the Icarus here. That's a mistake. You should dump every single one of your attacks into Spider Weaver, okay, that right there is bad. That stun on Morgan is bad because now that special is coming later. So the fact that that lands is an issue. But I digress. What you want to do is you want to put every single unavoidable attack you have at your disposal, which is very important when you're thinking about Apocalypse when he's getting that offense up. Yes, he's a baby, but he still hits a little bit harder. You want to put every single unavoidable attack into the Spider Weaver. So long as you get Spider Weaver to around 75%, even your baby Apocalypse will one-shot the Spider Weaver. Doesn't matter if she's geared to your 17, 7 red stars. Everyone has that. Doesn't matter. Apocalypse as a baby is still getting that offense up. His ultimate, followed by the empowered basic, still does 60% of her max life as damage, plus a whack load of percentile damage, plus striker attack. Okay? Everything Apocalypse does is unavoidable. You absolutely want to throw that and the kitchen sink at Weaver. If you take Weaver out, you're going to be good. And listen, the Eternals, they've already popped off. They've already done their thing. You can't stop that from happening. So don't try, right? What I will say is if this was an Apocalypse version of the Tangled Web team, that's way harder. Because the Apocalypse version does take your safeguard out, which means that Icarus will flip your defense up Darkhold members into defense down and gets them into super sketchy territory. And at that point, the one shot here, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Just not. Haven't got to do it myself. Haven't had the pleasure to do that yet. We'll see. I think there's a big trade-off with putting your Apocalypse on defense that we can talk about. And I think there's ways around it, but we'll see. We have to wait and see, because that's still a questionable thing in my opinion. Very, very questionable thing. But our friend here, he is going to lose. Now, he's not going for who I would go for. I'd go for Spider Weaver here with every single attack. He would have won if he didn't time out, though. Even with the, what I would consider, flawed attacking character. Right now he's attacking the right character because of the charges. But now the charges are off, so he could have went for the... He could have turned me to rewind and took all those buffs off of the Spider Weaver at this point, and then he could have won, right? If he had controlled her, especially because Morgan was coming up with this turn me to rewind on top of that. He didn't know all that. He just didn't. And even still, yeah, see, he gets that ability to block, 10 seconds left, puts it on auto, just not enough. The Spider Weaver eating up just so much time with her abilities. And then also the revives. Look, the Spider Weaver's going to revive too. Such a pain in the butt. Such an absolute pain in the butt. He would have had it. Heartbreaking. But that is what I would consider the one shot. It's okay. I've seen it lose, which makes me sketchy. I'm not sure how it scales into like the, well, I'll talk about that. We're about to show a burn, but let's talk about the one shot. I need some more. I've seen it work at 1.45 million versus 1.45 million. So take with that what you will. I've seen it fail though on punch downs. I think there is an element of RNG to it that we don't know the ins and out of yet, but it's definitely, in my opinion, the safest way to one-shot it out of a mirror matchup. I'm not going to show the mirror matchups, guys. The mirror matchup 100% works. We'll talk about why I don't suggest the mirror matchup, but that's as far as I'll go with that. Now here, this is my footage, okay? This is me doing an Infinity Watch burn. I know I'm going to lose this matchup. I'm just doing a burn here. Emma helps me here because she reduces the turn meter of all of my Infinity Watch members so that Nebula goes after Icarus. So Nebula still had defense up, still had safeguard, still had all that stuff. Now, the reason to use Infinity Watch is as simple as what was just said. To pull that Icarus and Cersei ultimate. You could almost pause it at that point and let it time out if that's what you want to do. I really like also pulling that 2099 special. I think that's valuable. Now, there's the third thing you can do in this particular matchup, and that is to pull all the Weaver charges off and hit an Eternal below 100% life. The reason you would do that is because you don't want them to have their passives. They're always going to come back with the revive. Cersei does that if the character starts with 1 health or starts with 100% health. Doesn't matter. But the passives of the Eternals, where they clear all their debuffs and then they heal all the way up to 100%. You can avoid that if they're not coming into the node with full life. Like that's what we did in the Famine Scourge on that node 10, right? With that with the A-Force team. That was their big use. The A-Force in that Famine Scourge. So that's what I'm going to do here, and then I'm going to let it just time out before I do these last two attacks, because I do want to make sure that Icarus isn't at 100% life. It does seem like he's not right now, but I just wanted to make sure. I kind of wish I did it to the Cersei as well, but I was sketched out by the barrier. Anyway, we don't have to watch all this. What I also want to talk about, though, is more burn attacks. So the Minerva burn that we've used on Tangled Webs in the past also still works. So that's with Minerva and 4 different minions, that 2099 will kill with his ultimate. So I'm sorry if you're a Kraken and all your minions are level 80, gear tier 15, and 2099 tickles them. That sucks. But if you're a regular player and you have 4 level 1 minions, throw them in with Minerva. Minerva will get a bunch of speed. Even if there's an Emma here, Minerva goes first. And you wait till there's 1 second left on the clock, you hit that ultimate, and bam. The Eternals no longer have 100% life. They will not have their passive. However, they will still have their ultimates. And then you need to bring in a team that'll be okay with that. Which again would be if you don't want to risk the one shot with A-Hold, which is Apocalypse Darkhold, then you could do the Minerva burn and follow it up with A-Hold. And you'll have a much easier time because Spider Weaver's not going to get that turn bonus from 2099 either. Now, is that burn worth it if you're going in with A-Hold? Well, technically with the revive, you're kind of killing the Eternal 3 times, so that takes you down to having to kill them 2 times. But you're still fighting against unavoidable attacks. If you're going to use A-Hold, I don't think it's worth it. I just don't think it's worth it to do the burn attack with Minerva. If you're going to do the burn attack like I'm doing with Infinity Watch, then it becomes more worth it because you've pulled those ultimates. Now, with Noir, this won't change. I'm gonna be doing that today in this Crucible. You can find it in the Crucible footage that we put up after every Crucible. That won't change with Noir. Infinity Watch will still burn that perfectly fine. I'm concerned though that if this was Apocalypse with Tangled Web and Eternals, then this would be more difficult because Apocalypse would take their safeguard off. And the problem with that is Icarus is very likely to get the double tap in that case, especially these 7 red star Icarus. So he is likely to kill everybody. If he does kill everybody, at least Gamora revives, Adam Warlock revives, and Nebula revives, which means you're still going to pull both Eternal attacks. You're still going to pull that Cersei attack as well. The big problem comes because Apocalypse is going to get more turns, right? He's going to have more of his attacks used. He's going to use that special. Now, him losing that special into the next attack, not necessarily a bad thing. That special does a giant heal. It puts safeguard, immunity, defense up on 2 highest damaged allies, which is super annoying. So having that out of the way is nice. The problem is that your Infinity Watch probably doesn't survive. It doesn't survive. Your Infinity Watch does not survive long enough to pull, like, you'd have to also pull the Weaver special after that, the Icarus special, the Cersei special, the 2099 special, and then Apocalypse would ult. But everyone would be dead by then. Even if you spaced out your Gamora, Adam Warlock, and Nebula, so they're all in the front row, stop all the kind of chains, I do think you pull more abilities, but I don't think you make it to the Apocalypse ultimate. But even if you do, then Apocalypse is going to come in with his Falcon Punch to start the next node, his Empowered Punch. And I don't know if you want that. So it's almost like as soon as he does his special, let it end and just accept that Apocalypse is going to flip all your buffs and put trauma on you. And I don't like that. So I kind of feel like with Apocalypse, Infinity Watch burn may be a bad idea. But now let's talk about a follow-up team. So I said like A-Hold, I don't really like them as the follow-up attack. I'd kind of prefer to do them as the main attack. Because if you're going to go for that A-Hold anyway, you might as well try and get that extra 400 points. We'll talk about a balancing again when we're done recording this just footage part. So what I did instead is I went in with Unlimited Apocalypse. Now this went butter smooth. I have seen this team one shot. It was against a Noir version. It was not against Emma. Emma would make it even easier. Emma essentially is doing nothing in this matchup. Absolutely nothing. Her special does nothing to you, and her ultimate is targeting Rogue, who has a bunch of immunity up and safeguard, so it doesn't matter. What I did notice is that my team didn't have necessarily the best ISOs for this. So what I would need to make this work better is I would need to have Skirmisher on Gambit Rogue, maybe, or at least on Rogue. Yeah, because what would happen is Gambit, I wouldn't attack the Emma. I would attack the Weaver. Weaver would hopefully get a vulnerable from that. Rogue would follow it up with her big attack, right? Would she? Or would Weaver go first if your Gambit doesn't attack? I think, yeah, they have the same speed. So if your Gambit hits Spider Weaver or not. I think I would use Gambit Ultimate, I think, or Special on Weaver to get speed up and hopefully get a crit. If you get that crit and you give the speed up to Rogue, so now Weaver has a vulnerable. Weaver has a vulnerable, and if Rogue is a skirmisher, you use her special on the enemy Weaver, which is going to reduce her turn meter and take away her immunity. And then Apocalypse can actually land the ability block on her. But most importantly, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Weaver goes first after that. You want to use Gambit Basic on the Spider Weaver because that is more likely to get a crit. It hits 2 times. And then you want to use the Rogue Special on Weaver because it's unavoidable. That'll take the immunity off. The immunity off. And then Apocalypse is also unavoidable. You want to use his ability block on Weaver to stop her from doing anything in the future, I suppose. At that point, it doesn't matter. Your big goal was to get that immunity off of Weaver so that on Rogue's second turn, she could stun the Weaver with that ultimate. Because the stun applies before peeling all the buffs on that Rogue ultimate. So you need to get the immunity off first. Okay, yeah. Now that I played off my head, that's the way I like to do it. And then you just want to tunnel in the Weaver because you have a bunch of characters on the Unlimited team, all with unavoidable damage. Both of Rogue's abilities, Dazzler Special, Sunfire Ultimate, you can also do the special into the ultimate so it does more damage, and everything Apocalypse does. And I think Gambit Ult too, but you won't reach that until after Weaver is dead. The idea, again, same with Darkhold or A-Hold, is you want to push the Weaver so that she is 60 to 75% of her life, and then Apocalypse is going to Falcon Punch her into infinity. And that's the ticket to beating this team. You couldn't do that in a one-shot because unless you can get Gambit to go first, maybe with Noir. If it was Noir instead of Emma, maybe Unlimited can one-shot it. I'll do the math on that. I'll test it tonight if the math is correct. You can see that in the video. But either way, this is my favorite follow-up team. Now, you're no longer going to have Unlimited on defense. I just made this a 1-for-1 swap. I said, hey, if I'm using Unlimited on offense, Darkhold's going to defense. Both of them suck to take out efficiently. It won me my last Crucible. We'll see how it fares out. Again, this is still pretty new, but this is the preliminary findings of the team. This team is crushing people. Both of my last opponents did not clear my Tangled Web Eternals room because they tried, well, for one, they tried Eternals Death Seed, which is like, whatever, good luck. And then the other one tried a Burn Attack followed by Masters of Evil and still lost, which was bonkers. Bonkers, I say. But yeah, this is my favorite follow-up. Enough said. Let's go talk about balance. Let's go talk about like balancing your Crucible. Do you want to have your Tangled Web on defense for this? Do you want to have your Tangled Web and Eternals on defense? Do you want to put it with Apocalypse? Do you want to put it with Emma? Do you want to put it with Noir? We'll talk about the ups and the downs for it all. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Because I can't give you the best recommendation because I don't know what the best recommendation is. It's one day in, but I can tell you how to beat it, and I can tell you about my experiences over at least the last 2 Crucibles. But of course, you can see everything happen live on Twitch. You get a lot of information there too. So let's go do that. All right. So before we start talking about like what's the best defensive options, what are the best offensive practices and setup, I want to show some examples that we've seen. Now, it's only been 2 days, technically 3, since this team was available in the Crucible for us to fight against. But there's been so much buzzing about it. So many people trying the teams that people say are guaranteed wins. Yes, there's error along the way. We saw that in the first video. Yes, there's some growing pains. Maybe certain teams are going to be guaranteed wins when everything is said and done. We don't know that yet. So let's talk about what we do know for now. So Enzy's coming in and he's shared his experience here. He said his Apox hold lost. It was super close. This was like a 40k punch up. He just couldn't get it done at the end of the day. So is the Apocalypse hold? It just took heart, which brings into question the scaling of this team. Does this team scale all the way up? I did see a matchup, 1.45 mil against 1.45 mil, like we talked about, and it looked clean, but things didn't land. There was no stun landed from the Weaver. So can that land? 100% it can. Maybe we start seeing enemy Weavers on defense as a skirmisher to help that stun land better on Darkhold. Who knows? These are all things that can happen, right? So I don't think this is a guaranteed win by any stretch of the imagination. We have mirror matchup losses from people trying to cheap out. So here using New Warriors didn't work out. So subbed in Dormammu and Emma. like super wins that speed matchup. And Dormammu, as soon as he gets to ult, then that's over. But at this point, man, you've thrown in a lot of teams to beat this team. You've thrown in as many offensive teams as I threw in defensive teams to make that work. So that's kind of a win. And you lost along the way. So you took all the responsibility on yourself. Then we got this mirror matchup. This is a straight mirror matchup. Now, there was Dormammu on this team. Even if this was Emma, this matchup completely wins. But not the greatest efficiency. Still lost a couple characters along the way. And that's at about 1.1 million range. Then we have Apocalypse Hold 1.2 million, just smacking down a near 1 million once. It's about 250k punch down. That wrecked it, but 0 turn bonus. So that's A-Hold getting 0 turn bonus. That was a long matchup. Then we have another Apocalypse Hold loss. This was on a punch across. And there was Emma on that team. So he had Apocalypse. This person had Emma. That enemy team basically was a 4v5 and still apparently won. So maybe a rogue stun, not a rogue stun, sorry, an unfortunate stun landed and then just couldn't get caught back up and win. And then went in with Unlimited and one-shot it with Unlimited Apocalypse. So it can work. You see, they got Skirmisher on the Rogue here, Raider on the Gambit. I wonder if he did what I thought I might have to do in the future, which is get a vulnerable on Weaver, get Rogue to pull it off, and then Rogue to stun, and you go from there. I wonder. The problem with that is you still have to survive those eternal ults from that point, and that's kind of scary. But that's an option. Now that was, again, though, turn bonus 4 points. Not super hyped on that. Another mirror matchup loss. This time going in with Undying Emma, and then tried it again. Still another loss. It's just not. It doesn't seem like the mirror matchup is as guaranteed as people think. Again, tried the mirror matchup here. Didn't work. Oh, this is the same picture, I believe. Is this the exact same picture? Let's bring this back up. Yeah, this is the exact same picture. And then went in with A-Hold and won on a 100k punch up. And clean. Look at those healthy character points. 19. The variation, I get it. I see your comments already. User error, user error, user error. I get it, but I've seen some of these play out where it's an unfortunate landed ability from Weaver on the get-go. Oh, and this one's with Noir. So actually, this one is interesting. So Noir goes before 2099. 2099 lands those debuffs. Does Morgan then go before Weaver and gets to flip everything? Is that why this one's cleaner? Is Noir bad on against this version? These are all things we're going to find out in the near future. But right now, still a question mark. So that leads the question, right? Which defense? We're going to talk about defense for a little bit. I know people hate it because then I give defensive recommendations and everyone's like, you made the game suck. No, Scopely made the game suck. I'm just telling you how to make it suck efficiently for you. Emma. The pros of Emma. She exists for her passive. The cons for Emma. Apocalypse makes her useless. She's garbage if there's an Apocalypse on the other side. Greg outweighs Emma's passive. She's garbage. And she's squishy. So if I'm coming in with a Tangled Web Eternal Mirror matchup, you could bet your bottom dollar my Icarus will double tap off of your Emma after my Hela made my team go first. And now you put your team at a severe disadvantage, and I'm actually going to finish this efficiently. Emma is a big flop on this team. I put her up there myself. It's like felt good on the inside. In practice, I don't think it does you a damned thing. It does not do you any favors. Let's jump over to Noir. I think Noir is the second best option, but effectively maybe the best. So the pro for him, he goes before 2099. So I just talked about how maybe that made Morgan go before Spider Weaver. Let's think about that. No. The answer is no. Maybe? So in that matchup, there's now 4 Mystic characters because of Noir. So Morgan's getting 20%. She loses 10, right? Just 10 from the global. But Weaver is gaining 20% from 2099 going. I think Weaver still goes before Morgan. I could be wrong. Somebody check the speed on that. She gets 20% from Noir and 2099 going, but she loses percent. Weaver gains percent, and Weaver's the faster character by 7. I don't know. I want to see how this one plays out. Unfortunately, I just don't have that team to test myself. Another pro for Noir is he gives percentile damage to everybody. Everyone, even including the Eternals, has that Tangled Web tag. So your team is now doing more damage. Speaking of damage, he does damage and he gets stealthed on spawn. So they're forced to hit Spiderweaver, and Spiderweaver, being the tanky protector that she is, takes a hit as good as anybody. And if they're doing Darkhold Apocalypse or Unlimited Apocalypse, they're by default going for Weaver anyway to set up their Apocalypse hit. So it doesn't change anything. And then he's got that Tangled Web tag, except it does change things. If they get stuck behind the charges, they don't have like an Emma or an Apocalypse to hit into to avoid giving Spiderweaver energy or charges, or sorry, energy or speed. So it is kind of nice to have 5 Tangled Web tag characters on that. Anyway, the con. He does leave the mirror open to the enemy using Emma over Hela. And the reason this is a con is because then your enemy can go use Hela in some other room, right? They can use Hela with Zombie Iron Man against Young Avengers, against, I guess, Gamma Works, against whatever. If you have Darkhold, they could use it there. So it does leave that door open. Then there's Apocalypse. I think inarguably Apocalypse is the best 5th member, but he has a glaring issue I don't think people are thinking through. Let's talk about the pros. Remove Safeguard. So if they go in there with Darkhold, then he's going to remove the Safeguard. Does that mean the 2099 is going to land all his debuffs? Probably not, because the enemy is also going to maybe have Apocalypse. Maybe not. If the enemy also doesn't have Apocalypse, that sucks. And I don't think Darkhold beats Tangled Web Eternal's Apocalypse without having Apocalypse of their own. I don't think that's even remotely possible. The special defensive property. So on his special, where he's giving heal, safeguard, immunity, and defense up. If the enemy is trying to hard target your Weaver and doesn't get it done before he does that ability, that is super helpful to try and help her survive. And if that Weaver survives, the charges from the enemy Weaver probably going to be up, and then maybe your defensive Weaver gets her charges up. And that's a nightmare for the enemy, okay? Makes the burn less appealing. We already talked about this a little bit earlier. Definitely makes the burn less appealing, because now all of a sudden I'm dealing with an Apocalypse who's opening up with his ultimate, flipping my buffs and giving me trauma, or maybe opening up with his Falcon Punch where he's just going to yeet somebody off the map. That's an issue. But it is also one you can work around. Like, instead of doing 1 burn, maybe you do 2 burns, and then you hit it with a follow-up team. And now the enemy team has no, they've used everything. Maybe that's the way you go. I don't know. But then you're losing 800 efficiency points. I don't know. Unavoidable everything. So the Apocalypse, like even in the mirror matchup, their Tangled Web gets the charges up first. Well, your Apocalypse, he can still land that ability block, doing the special stuff. He'll still land his ultimate, flipping a bunch of offense ups, maybe to offense downs with trauma, saving you so that you can actually get it popped off. And then his ultimate can still yeet someone off the map. And he takes away the Emma threat. So if someone is going to try a mirror matchup, they can't use Emma anymore. They have to use Hela or Kang or somebody, but obviously they wouldn't use Kang. But the point is, it takes Emma off the table. But here's the big con, something I think people overlook when they think about putting Apocalypse on defense. You're losing him from offense. If you have your Apocalypse on defense, and I maybe have to now maybe I have to burn it twice, okay? That stings, that's 800 points off. You no longer have your Apocalypse on offense. I still have my Tangled Web Eternals on defense. How do you beat my Tangled Web Eternal team without having Apocalypse? Without having that unavoidable, that fist punch that rips Weaver to infinity? You can mirror match it 100%. But if you mirror match it, then I don't have to deal with yours on defense. I now have, me personally, we'll talk about it in a little bit, I'll have different teams that are very strong to use on whatever you put up instead of Tangled Web Eternals. And I guarantee you, whatever you put up on defense does not hold a candle to what Tangled Web Eternals do. Even when you win with your Tangled Web Eternal team, there's a good chance on the mirror, there's still a good chance you lose a big part of efficiency. A big part of efficiency. All right? Especially if I have APOC on defense, because he's, even at low stars, pretty damn tanky. All that drain, all the healing he gets on his special, on his passive, the immunity on spawn, getting that defense up right away. Pretty rough. So Apocalypse, I do think is the best on defense, but I think that con is too heavy a burden. So what would my suggestion be for defense? Emma's garbage. Apocalypse costs too much to your roster. I think Noir is the way to go. I like him taking that first turn. I like the extra damage. I like how he has the Tangled Web tag. Can you still get mirrored into infinity? Sure. But then you don't have to deal with their Tangled Web on defense if they're using it on offense. Which leads us to like best practices for offense. So 3 different philosophies, right? You have the burn plus follow-up. That's what I showed, where I did an Infinity Watch burn, I let it time out, and then I went in with unlimited Apocalypse. I had super good health points. 0, like I had 4 points for the efficiency on the turn order. So that did suck. It did suck. And I gave up 400 points on the burn. Did I at any time feel I was in danger? Not for a second. The second that Icarus Ultimate was pulled, I felt super comfortable. So if I am doing the burn follow-up and you happen to have Apocalypse on defense, maybe I'll do 2 burns. Maybe I'll just let Icarus ult, then I'll pause the game and let it time out. Why not? Just I just won't let your Apocalypse go. Or I don't even get hits off, do I? I just won't hit Apocalypse. If I don't hit Apocalypse, I don't give him speed up. I can wait till Cersei does her ultimate and then pause. Sure. He's still opening up with his special. That still sucks. I could risk that for the 2-shot at that point. 29 still gonna open up the special. Yeah, that sucks, but I could still risk that at that point. Or I can burn 2 attacks and then do an easy cleanup. So the burn follow-up, I think, out of these 3 options, is the safest option. Now let's go to what I would consider the semi-aggressive option, but in a weird way. So the mirror on offense, if you have your Tangled Web on offense. Now, if you have your Tangled Web on offense and you use like Undying Tangled Web to get the win, 2 things can be true. You could fail or you can succeed, baby. You can win or lose. It's that simple in this game. And we've seen a lot of people lose. And the people that we've seen win that matchup still take a lot of turns. A lot. If you go in with the mirror matchup and you use your Tangled Web and Eternals against mine, you don't use as many turns. But you've also erased a lot from your field. We talked about this a couple minutes ago. You not putting this on defense means I don't got to deal with it on defense, all right? And if I'm doing my thing where I have unlimited on offense, it doesn't matter what you use to replace the Tangled Web team with. I'm going to crush it. I will crush it, all right? You're super excited. You left your Tangled Web Eternals on offense. You're going to slam through mine, and you're going to put up Darkhold. Yeah, F that guy. I'm going to screw his efficiency. My unlimited team is going to bum rush you, and you're going to get no turns, all right? I don't have to burn it at that point. I don't got to do anything. I can go in with straight unlimited and smack that team in the mouth. I can go in with Apocalypse Unlimited and smack it even harder, all right? I do not see the benefit of the mirror on offense because you're taking all that responsibility. And what you replace on defense will never stand up to it the same. And maybe I did pull in Infinity Watch off, okay? And that's going to be a sucky matchup because maybe your Infinity Watch is still on defense. That's an efficiency suck. But wait, because you didn't put your Tangled Web Eternals on defense, I don't need to use my Apocalypse there. All of a sudden, I'm using my Apocalypse with A-Force, right? I use it with A-Force, and I could, with a bunch of skirmishers, I can go ahead and I can get off the immunities that, well, wait, no, because that'll take the safeguard off. I could go ahead and take those immunities off. I can get some, take off the defense ups, and I could bum rush your team. I can use Weapon X, do the same thing. Apocalypse shuts Infinity Watch down. If you're not forcing me to use Apocalypse on your Tangled Web Eternals, then your Infinity Watch means less to me. But I still have my Infinity Watch now. I could use it on your Death Seed. I could use it on your Underworld. I could use it on your Gamma. Did you guys know that Infinity Watch could punch up 300k into Gamma in Crucible? You might start finding out. I don't think the mirror on offense is on the play. I don't think it's the play. I think uninformed, and not to be rude, but just players that aren't engaged as much, it might work on them. You might catch W's like that. If I had Darkhold on offense instead of Unlimited on offense, you might catch a W like that too, because now I got a mirror matchup Darkhold, but my Darkhold gets more nerfed on offense than yours does on defense. Well, that'll lead me to my suggestion at the end, which is, let me just say it now, pull Unlimited. Your Unlimited team is not getting any more efficient wasting turns than your Darkhold will. So Darkhold on defense, unlimited on offense. Feels good to me. It's felt good so far. I felt like I was in complete control in my Tangled Web matchup because of all the unavoidable attacks. But then there's the big balls play. And if someone does the big balls play to you and you decided to burn and follow up, you're going to lose the Crucible. If they hit you with the APOC hold one shot, if we find a way to make that matchup always work, they could one shot your, say you have full Tangled Web Eternals, you got that Noir up there, but APOC hold one shots it consistently, you're going to lose if you do a burn attack. But this seems risky. I've seen people lose punch downs. I've seen people win punch ups. We don't know what's making this tick yet. We don't know if it's a little bit of RNG on where Tangled Web, where Spider Weaver is landing or not landing her stun. Again, maybe we make that, maybe if our Tangled Web is on defense, we make her a skirmisher. I don't know. The Apocalypse Hold one shot is the mega Chad move, and I'm about it. I'm supportive of you guys trying it on me, because my Tangled Web Eternal team is 1.3 million. I'm not sure how well it scales. Food for thought. This was 17 minutes of me ranting. Jesus, video over.
That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.